Hey there, how you doing? Kim Constable here. Nobody cares. Work harder. How are you doing this week? Are you all having a fabulous week? I really hope you are. It is Sunday morning. I'm just sitting in my very quiet office here. I love to come and record the podcast on a Sunday morning in the office simply because I'm feeling fresh from the weekend. It's quiet. There's no one here. I get to think about it. I get to connect with you all. And so one of my favorite things to do is to come to my office on a Sunday and record this podcast. So here we are again. And what are we going to talk about today? Well, I have been seeing a lot of, and I mean a lot of complaints, I guess, or not really. Well, yeah, okay. Let's call a spade a spade. A lot of complaints in the 4-week shredded body competition group about women feeling deflated because they're not seeing changes that they expected to be seeing in week 2 of the competition. So for context, let's just give you a bit of background on what's happening in this competition. Well, the women are following a macro and calorie controlled diet. They are performing cardio twice a day. They are training either at home or in the gym 6 days a week. And they are meal prepping on a Sunday, and they are listening to coaching calls, and they're really putting forth a lot of effort to lose body fat. And we're now at the end of week 2, and I'm really not sure what kind of stunning transformation a lot of the members are hoping to see, but I am seeing a lot of people very, very disappointed, wanting to throw in the towel, wanting to give it all up because they're not seeing the changes that they expected or would like. And so I thought a little podcast was in order so that I could talk about what's going on in the body, but more importantly, what is going on emotionally for these women that would cause them to get upset and disappointed enough to throw in the towel after only 2 weeks on a fitness program. And so that is what we're going to talk about today. And I could bring up, I could have pulled up a post from one of the women, saying about, here's my before and after photos, and I'm really not seeing much change, and I'm so deflated, and I feel depressed. I mean, there has been so many of these. So if this is you listening to this and you're like, oops, that was me, I put in that post, I don't want you to feel judged, okay, or shamed or punished or whatever, because that is not the point of this podcast. The point of this podcast is to help you overcome this difficulty. And the reason why, just in case you guys didn't know, as a little FYI, the reason why I can help you overcome a lot of the difficulties that you experience in your fat loss and fitness journey is because I too have experienced them. So that is why I can speak with authority on the subject. It's not from a place of holier than thou, or I am mightier than you because I have never suffered this ailment and therefore you should aspire to be as good as I am. No. The reason why I can speak to your struggles is because I too, and as well as every other fitness athlete on the planet, has had the same struggles, because every single person goes through exactly the same thing at some point in their fitness journey. So you are not alone, and there is no judgment from me. But there are some things that you could do and some ways that you could realign your expectations to keep you moving forward, I guess, and keep you feeling positive and motivated, which is really my ultimate goal. Because whenever you move forward in any endeavor in life, you will eventually succeed in what it is that you're moving towards, as long as you don't quit. So that is what we're going to talk about today. So why do people get deflated whenever they're not seeing much change? Enough to make them want to quit, or at least question what it is that they're doing. Well, it reminded me of whenever I did my first bikini competition. So I remember I had been training really hard, and I mean really hard, from say April through to April through to December, right? So I spent all that time building muscle before I did my first bikini competition, and I trained super hard. And I remember Curtis, my trainer at the time, saying to me, he looked at me, I think it was November, December of that year, and he looked at me training my and he said, "You're ready." And I said, "Am I?" And he said, "Yep, you're ready for a competition. We're going to choose your first competition. We're going to work towards it." So we chose that I was going to do my first competition in April. And I was going away to Australia that year. It was in 2016/2017. We were going to Australia for Christmas. And he said, whenever you come back from Australia in January, we will start your diet. We'll start prepping for your show. And I was like, okay, great. Well, like, how long is it going to be? And and he said, well, you'll only need about 12 to 14 weeks because you're already reasonably lean. So you shouldn't need any more than that. So as soon as you get back in January, we're going to start dieting. So I was super excited, but I was also super nervous because I had never, ever dieted down to stage leanness. I'd never, ever dieted down that hard. I'd always looked at girls who were that lean, and I always used to be like, how did they do it? Like, how does someone get that lean? Because like I had dieted in the past, right? And I mean, like any woman, I had yo-yo dieted. I'd been on the no carb, the slow carb, the juice, the intermittent fasting, that you name it, I had done it, right? Every diet under the sun. And although the diets that I had participated in worked insofar as I definitely lost body fat in the times that I had done them, I certainly hadn't ever been strategically really lean. And do you know what I mean by strategically? Like, I mean, I had never set a goal to, be super lean with veins on my abs and, and shredded legs and all the rest of it, and then actually achieved it. Of course, that had always been my goal whenever I was dieting. And in my head, I was always hoping that I would, look like I was going to stand on stage. I always wanted to be that lean. And that's what I always hoped for whenever I was doing my diet, but I had never actually set a plan to achieve it. And in fact, I didn't even know that that was possible, even though I did see bodybuilders on stage and I saw that they were super, super lean. And I used to think, they must they must do something. They must have some secret, right? Some secret way of dieting, which gets them that lean. And they must know something the rest of us don't know. And in a way that they do know things that the rest of us didn't know, or I didn't know at the time. But there really wasn't like a huge secret to the whole thing. So anyway, I was definitely super nervous whenever I started on my diet because genuinely, I just didn't know if it would work. And I didn't know if it would work because I had never done it before. But of course, I had an experienced coach, and this coach was telling me what to do. So I was just going to follow what the coach told me. Right, that was my plan. And like every good plan, it doesn't always go the way that you think it's going to go. So what happened? Got back from Australia, literally ate my body weight in food in Australia, trained super hard, was definitely carrying more body fat than I wanted to or was used to. Got back from Australia and Curtis gave me my plan. And my plan, I'll never forget it, started at 1,800 calories, right? So I was going to drop calories over a 12-week period. I was going to go 18, 17, 16, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, maybe 12. I think I was going to get down to 1,200, or I was certainly going to drop calories every single week anyway. And maybe he was going to assess at like week 6, whatever. I didn't know. But I have to be honest, right? I looked at the plan and I went, 1,800 calories? Like, really? Like, I'm starting on 1,800 calories. Actually, I think I was starting on 2,000 calories. It wasn't 1,800, it was 2,000 because I'd been eating a huge amount of calories. Like I was tracking my calories. I was eating like 2,800 or 3,000 calories. I think I started on 2,000 calories. And so after 8 weeks, I would have been down to about 1,200. And I remember looking and going, really? Like 2,000 calories? Like, how is this dieting on 2,000 calories? But I was like, no, well, just going to trust it. Don't trust what he says. And so I did. So I did the 2,000 calories. I did the cardio. I, was, good with the supplements and whatever. And then I did my measurements after, because he said, you're going to do your measurements every single week and we're going to, measure progress every week. So I excitedly did my measurements at the end of week 1. And I remember doing them and thinking, yeah, really, really not much change here. And I remember like pulling the what do you call it? The measuring tape just a little bit tighter because I had to see something, right? I had to see like a half an inch here, half an inch there. Like I had to see something. I mean, I was putting in a tremendous amount of effort. I was, counting my macros and calories. I was on that fucking Stairmaster like every day for an hour as well as training. And I wanted to see something for my efforts, right? I mean, something. Give me something here. And so after a week, I remember doing my measurements. No change on the scale, no change in the measurements, did the photos. Really didn't look any different, no matter how much I sucked and tucked and pulled and moved my body. Didn't really see any change. And so I was a bit disheartened, to say the least. I was like, really? Like, could you not have just given me something? Just like something that I could like hold on to, like some little sliver of dieting joy that would keep me going through week 2. But no, nothing was delivered. So anyway, I was like, okay, I'll have to keep going because I've got this show. So, I kept going in week 2. And again, cardio, dieting, measuring everything. Got to the end of week 2, had that little frisson of excitement. That like frisson of excitement where you think, oh, I'm going to stand on the scale and the scale is going to show me like a little bit of fat loss and I'm going to do my measurements. And finally in week 2, I'm going to see something, right? So week 2, again, did my measurements, minimal change. And I mean, minuscule. Like if you added up the inches overall, it was like maybe 1 inch or 2 inches over my entire body. Stood on the scale, no change in weight. And honestly, at this point, I was just like, okay, this isn't working. It's not working. I mean, clearly Curtis doesn't, he might be very experienced at what he does. And he's probably, he's a very experienced prep coach, of course, and bodybuilder, but he doesn't know my body. My body's different. I'm a vegan, right? And I'm a yoga teacher, and I was eating very low calories for a long time. Clearly, my metabolism is damaged, and this program isn't going to work for me because I'm the exception to the rule, and I'm different. So I need to take matters into my own hands, and I need to change some things here. But I won't tell Curtis. I won't tell Curtis that I've changed things. I'll just pretend to him that I'm continuing on his plan because I don't want him to be offended, right? I don't want him to be, upset or whatever that I'm not doing what he's doing. And it's only, this was my thought, only whenever I have defied all the laws of bodybuilding and all of the people he's prepped before. And when I reach week 6 and I'm completely shredded, then he's going to say, holy shit, like you are the most shredded athlete I've ever had at week 6. And then I'm going to say, well, actually, I didn't follow your plan. I did this and I did this, right? So this was my very, very illogical, flawed plan of action. Because after 2 weeks, right? I didn't see the changes after 2 weeks. So clearly the plan didn't work. Clearly, me with no experience at all of getting shredded for the stage knew more than Curtis, the professional bodybuilder and one of the judges in our program, who'd prepped hundreds of athletes, including himself, for the stage. But obviously, he didn't know my body, right? And my particular needs. This was the thing that he didn't understand, which is why the program wouldn't work. Because I was 37 years of age. I had lived in my body for 37 years. Curtis had only known me for 7 months. So, surely my 37 years of experience in my body was worth more than his 7 months of experience. Clearly, right? So what happened? So I decided to do a wee bit of my own research, and I went deep into you know what, guys, I love the 4-Hour Body, the book, The 4-Hour Body by Tim Ferriss. It's been a huge inspiration to me. And I'd been reading, I'd followed the 4-Hour Body principles, the slow carb principles, for a long time. And I remember there was a whole section in that book about bodybuilders, right? And about, if you want to get like super shredded. And I was like, well, I trust Tim Ferriss. I trust Tim Ferriss more than I trust Curtis, which really is quite ludicrous when you think about it. So I was like, I definitely trust Tim Ferriss. So I'm going to go to this section, right? And I'm going to do what the hardcore bodybuilders do. And I'm going to follow that plan. So I went to the book and I pulled the book out and I read it all. And it told, it was very much like the calculations that we give in our programs now, which was, get your body, calculate your lean body mass, multiply it by X amounts in protein, X amounts in fats or whatever. And, you have to measure this, measure that, and whatever. So I went into the book. It's so ludicrous when I think about it now. And I wrote down the calculations. I was right. Okay, I'm going to do this. And I was like, okay, well, I think I'm around, I think I'm about 60 kilos. So I'll just do the calculations based on that. So I did the calculations based on that. And then I was like, okay, and then I think I'm about this. So I did these calculations, right? Not precisely at all. Oh, I think my body fat's about 18 or 19 or 20% or something. So I'll just do the calculations based on that. And then, so then Tim's was, you have to eat X amount of lean protein per, pound of body fat and this and that. And I was like, okay. And then it was unlimited vegetables, unlimited green vegetables, and minimal fats, whatever. I measured nothing, right? I just went, oh, tofu, right? Okay, so tofu can be my lean protein, and I think it's going to be about 280 grams. I think that's the equivalent in the meat that Tim is recommending. And okay, so I'm going to add, I'm going to use the garlic oil as my fat because that's what I saute the vegetables with and or saute the tofu with, and then I'll add this and whatever. And so I literally decided that me eating a tofu scramble for lunch and dinner with loads of different sauteed vegetables. And I added in rice after I was training because Tim says if you eat white carbs within 30 minutes of training, then they aren't absorbed as body fat. They're just all utilized by the muscles. So I was like, well, sure, I can have rice after training. So after my training, I would have had rice, and then I would have had, and I had tofu and, vegetables, whatever. And so I decided that I was going to embark on this plan. And so this was the plan that I was doing. And so but I didn't tell Curtis, of course. I just pretended that I was doing the plan that he was having me do. And Laura Hutchinson, our head trainer, she was married to Curtis at the time. And she always tells a story about how, so we got to about 6 weeks out, right? And I was busting my ass doing, an hour's cardio on the Stairmaster every day. I think Curtis had it in a second set of cardio then as well. And I was training really, really hard in the gym. And I wasn't losing any body fat. I mean, I was losing a little bit, but it was like for the amount of work that I was doing, I was losing minimal amounts of body fat. And Laura says that Curtis, she remembers sitting down with him and going, there's no way she's following the plan. Like she's not, she should be far leaner by now if she'd been following the plan. Because obviously they both had a lot of experience in this area and they knew what results they should be seeing by the stage that I was in, which was 6 weeks out from my show. They knew how I should look. And I did not look like that. So they knew that something was off. Interesting. How they knew. How did they know? Experience. So anyway, I got to about 6 weeks out and I realized that I was literally busting my ass. I was working so hard and I was not losing body fat. I was losing a little bit, but really I was not losing at the rate that I should have been losing it at. And so I went to Curtis and he came to me one day, I think, and he said to me, I don't know. He said, Kim, I need to check your diet because you're not where you should be now. And he said, you should be far leaner than this. So he said, you must be miscalculating your calories and macros because I do believe you're doing all the exercise and the cardio and I see you doing it all the time in the gym, but there's no way that your macros must be off. And so that's whenever I decided to be honest with him. And I was like, well, I have a confession to make. And he was like, what's the confession? So I told him, I was like, I haven't been following your plan. He was like, oh, what plan have you been following? And I said, well, I looked up Tim Ferriss's 4 Hour Body Book and I did the calculation in there, which was for, for bodybuilders. And he was like, so what macros have you been following? So I showed him the plan and he was like, well, where have you been tracking them? I was like, well, I haven't been tracking them. I just thought that the tofu was lean protein. I had no idea at the time that tofu was not lean protein because tofu is quite high in fat. So lean means low carb, low fat. Right. So I was actually eating a huge amount of fat from the tofu that I was eating. I was adding oil I was having like a tablespoon of olive oil. I fucking kid you not, because I was following this bodybuilder plan that was supposed to be for like mass monsters like Mark Getty. And I was having like a tablespoon of olive oil. And Curtis, I just remember he just broke down laughing. He was like, you are such a dick. And he was like, I cannot believe it. And he said, I honestly thought that I was going mad. I thought there was something wrong. And I was like, I'm so sorry. Like, what do I do? And he was like, right, well, you just have to, you're going to have to knuckle down now. And you really are going to have to, to do what I say. Are you prepared to do that? I mean, in fairness to him, I think if someone had done that with me, I would have been like, well, I'm sorry, I can't coach you anymore because you're uncoachable and defiant, actually. So he said, are you willing to knuckle down and do what it takes? And I said, yes, I really am, I promise. And so he gave me a diet, which was really severe. And I had to count all my macros and cook all my food. And I did follow it now. So in the 6 weeks before I stood on stage, I did lose a significant amount of body fat, but I really did not lose the amount of body fat that I should have lost. I think I prepped for 14 weeks for that show in total. And I think it was only the first 8 weeks, literally, I was just eating far too much. Yes, I was doing loads of cardio and loads of training. And I honestly thought that, oh my God, there's no way you can do all this cardio and all this training and not lose body fat. But what I didn't realize was it's actually the precision of the meal plan, the precision of the macros and the calories, which is the thing that causes the most fat loss. And that's where I really had just, copped out. So what did I learn from this? Well, the funny thing was, there's a couple of different things that I learned from it. The most important thing was that Curtis knew what to expect. He knew where I should be at 6 or 8 weeks out from my show, because he had experience in what to look for. He knew that following this particular plan should yield specific results. And as soon as he saw that I wasn't where he would expect I would be at six weeks into the plan, or 8 weeks, 8 weeks into the plan. I mean, he was seeing it all along, but I kept promising him. I basically just lied to him. And it's so funny because I never lie about anything now, but I just lied to him. I was like, yep, following the plan. Yep. And I totally was not following the plan. So I wasn't being honest with myself, never mind being honest with him. But he knew what to expect. And how he knew what to expect was he had experience. He had seen before what happens when someone consistently does what he recommends in the plan. And he also had experience in that when someone isn't getting the results, it's because they're not consistently following the plan. And they're changing something, or they're overeating, or they're adding in extra oil, or they're adding in extra rice, or they're cheating and eating ice cream and pretending that they're not. He used to tell a story about how this woman just wasn't losing body fat on her diet for a show. And she kept swearing to him that she was following it, and she didn't know why she wasn't losing body fat, and she must be the anomaly. And then one day he bumped into her one evening coming out of an ice cream shop carrying like a pint of ice cream. And she got so uncomfortable, like, oh, I'm just getting it for a friend or whatever. And he looked at her and he said, that's why she's not losing weight, because she's cheating on her diet. So whenever you are an experienced coach, right, and people aren't losing weight, you know that they're cheating on their diet. It's not always intentional. It can be unintentional. They can be eating something, thinking or not knowing the calories in it, or adding things, to their diet unknowingly or unwillingly, I guess. Even it's not always intentional, but we know whenever you're not getting the results that you should be getting, it's because you're not doing something you should be doing. And like I said, it's not always intentional that you're not, but sometimes it is. But I think the reason why I had decided not to follow Curtis's plan was because I wanted, or the reason not to follow it, the reason why I decided to change at the end of 2 weeks, which is where a lot of people are now whenever they're in the four-week Shredded Body program. The reason why I decided to change at the end of 2 weeks was because I couldn't see that the plan was working. And I didn't really trust in the beginning that it was going to work because I didn't have any experience. I put all of my trust in Curtis, but then no, that's not true. I didn't put my trust in him. I decided to follow his plan, but the mistake that I made was I had an expectation in my mind of what I was looking for. So he gave me a plan, but the flaw in it was I was going to decide whether the plan was working or not. I hadn't given up full responsibility to him. I hadn't given up control, I guess. It's not really responsibility. I hadn't given up control. I had an expectation of what results I wanted to see or thought I should be seeing at the end of a week or two. And it really just came from being terrified that it wasn't going to work. My biggest fear was that I would stand on stage for the first time in a bikini competition and look shit, or look like I didn't belong, or look fat, or not fat, but stage fat, And that was my biggest fear. I did not want to stand on stage and look like a fool. And the fear of standing on stage and looking like a fool was the thing that drove me not to trust the plan, because I wasn't being motivated from a place of confidence. I wasn't being motivated towards a goal. I was being motivated away from a goal. I was more scared of looking like a fool than I was of standing on stage. Like, that bit didn't even really scare me. And so because I was determined I wasn't going to look like a fool, I found it very, very, very hard to trust because I'm the one who has to stand on stage. I'm the one who's going to look like a fool. It doesn't matter to Curtis if I look like a fool or not. Well, obviously it does because he's my prep coach, but this isn't what I was thinking. I was like, I'm the one who's put myself out here. I'm the one who's busting my ass doing cardio. I'm the one who's told all my family and friends that I'm going to be standing on stage in a bikini competition at age 37, mother of four. My husband doesn't want me to do it. My mother's embarrassed about, of me. I've put a lot on the line here, right? I've put a lot on the line here. And so am I really going to give up control, if you like, of my image, my self-image, my image to the world, what people think of me, all of these different things to some random bloke in the gym that I've never met before that really couldn't give a shit if I stand up there and look stupid? This is what was going through my head. I don't know whether you guys can relate to this or not. I mean, maybe it's just me that felt this way. But oftentimes, this is the thing that drives us. This is the thing that stops us. This is the reason why we can't trust and we can't just relax and follow the plan, because we quite often have invested so much emotionally into this. And we have, like we're showing up every day and we don't want to look like a fool. We don't want to, we've gone around telling people, I'm doing this 4-week shred and this 4-week shredded body challenge. And I'm going to lose so much body fat at the end of it. And I'm going to be, we want to convince ourselves as well as we want to convince others. People are like, you spent $497 on a program. You're like, yeah, but no, but it's like the best money ever. Just wait till you see. It's going to be amazing. Like, this woman really knows her stuff. Like Kim Constable, like, honestly, I'm going to be shredded. Wait till you see, right? And herein lies the problem. We have not made this an experiment anymore. We haven't been like, well, yeah, just, you know what? It was a lot of money. I had to do the 6-month payment plan. It was $97 for 6 months. I don't know if I'm being a dick or not. I don't know if this is going to work. I've never done a shred before, but this woman, Kim Constable, she, runs a massive worldwide company. I've seen a lot of the success stories. I think she knows what she's talking about. I've no idea if it's going to work for me or not, but I'm going to give it a whirl. I'm going to see what happens. We don't go into this thinking I'm just going to, I have a hypothesis that I'm going to lose maybe 20% body fat. So let me just give it my best shot and then test my hypothesis at the end of it. No, we don't do that. We put everything. We put our personhood, we put our soul on the line for this thing that we have invested in because we need it to work. It must work. It must work. It must work because we haven't invested all of this money in this program. And what if I invested all this money and now the program doesn't work? And I've also invested my image in this. Like, I've told my husband and my friends and my mother, and they're all thinking I'm completely nuts for getting up at 4:30 a.m. and doing cardio and counting all these calories and macros. And I have sacrificed like time with my loved ones, and I have sacrificed parties and pizza and Thanksgiving, for God's sake, for this diet. So it bloody well better work. It better work because I have sacrificed money, time, energy, effort for this goddamn program. And if after 2 weeks I don't see results, well, fuck me, there is going to be some heads are going to roll, right? Heads are going to roll. This is the kind of internal dialogue that I had going, which I wasn't even aware of whenever I got 2 weeks out. And I was like, I can't believe I have paid him all this money for training. And I'm paying him for this prep. And he's given me this bullshit plan that started at 2,000 calories. And after 2 weeks, I'm not seeing any results. And I have lived in my body for 37 years. And you goddamn better believe that I am going to take control of this shit, because I am not going to stand on stage and look like a fool. I am not. Well, unfortunately, this is a very bad plan. It's a very bad plan because whenever you decide to take things into your own very inexperienced hands, quite often it doesn't go the way that you think it will go because you have no experience in this area. It's like people who come to me, which they do all the time, and they say to me, Kim, can you please tell me how to start an online business? Or they'll say, Kim, I've created this plan. I've created this amazing PDF, right? This amazing plan, and it gets this incredible result for these people. Can you please help me with how to market it? And I'll say, absolutely, 100%. Here's exactly what you have to do. And I say, how much is the plan? What is the time frame? give me the details. So give me details. And so I know from getting the details exactly how they should market it. And I'll say, okay, so first of all, you can't market it that way because of this. So if you're going to do a webinar or you're going to do a 5-day challenge, the cost of the program has to be high enough in order to justify the amount of people that, you get into the challenge, because you'll only convert 1 to 3% of registrations. And so, and it's going to cost you X amount per registration. You're going to have to spend X amount of money. And if you spend X amount of money, you'll make this. And so I give them the exact plan. And do you know how I can give them the exact plan? Experience. Many, 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 many years of experience with programs of all different price points, with webinars and challenges and direct to cold traffic. And I have failed more times than anyone I know in my circle in internet marketing. So I have a huge amount of experience. So I can tell them, if you do this, this will happen. And I would put money on the fact that it will. And they go, but do you not think that I should? And no, don't do that. Absolutely don't do that, because that will fail. And they go, okay, thanks so much. So they go away and they launch. And then I come back to them a while later and I go, hey, how did your launch go? And they go, oh my God, it was terrible. And I go, really? Why? And they go, oh, we lost so much money. Like, we spent 20,000 on ads and we only registered X amount of people. And then we didn't make any money, and then hardly anybody bought. And I go, well, hang on a wee second here. I'm like, but 20,000 on ads. And I said, but did you do the ads the way I told you to? Well, no, we decided to do this other thing over here. And I'm like, okay, well, that was your first mistake. And then I'll say, so did you, what was your price point? Well, it was $97. And I'm like, but I told you can't run ads to a webinar or a 5-day challenge for a $97 program unless you have a very, very strong, warm or hot audience, because you're not going to make any money, because your cost of registrations is going to be higher than your cost of sales. And they're like, I know you said that, but I just didn't feel like I could charge more. And I just shake my head and walk away, because people like that, well, not people like that. I was that person, right? I was that person in the beginning. There's something in you that just makes you think, I know best. And it's very much a woman thing. Men don't really seem to have this. Men just go, okay, tell me what I need to do. Yep, great. Okay, what else do I need to do? Okay, yep, great. Perfect. Right. Men just trust, because men are really good at following orders. See, women are shit at following orders. We're shit at following orders. We get defiant and stroppy, and we just honestly believe that we know best. And this serves us in many ways in our lives, but also it really, really holds us back from achieving a goal. Do you know that is part of the reason why the most successful people in the world are men? Because men follow the fucking plan. They find a mentor who has done what they want to do, and they do what the mentor tells them. And if they're not getting the results they think they should be getting, they just trust that the results will come. But the other thing is, men go into it with very few expectations. They don't go into it expecting to get a certain result and then give up whenever their expectations don't meet reality, because men are much more reality based than women. Women live in this fantasy in their head, and that is how most of us govern our lives. And so we have a lot to learn from men in that respect. And so, but then the question becomes, why do we find it so hard to trust? And what even is trust? And what even is faith, right? So I define, and it's not my definitions, it's a company I used to work with years ago. They defined the faith, right, as trust with no data. Trust without data. So whenever you are first following a fitness plan that you've never followed before, in order to get you, promising to get you shredded in 4 weeks, and you've never done anything like this before, all you have is faith, because you have no data. You trust that the person selling the plan, aka me, Kim Constable, knows what she's talking about, but you have no data to back it up. So you just have faith. It's only then when you start to work the plan that you begin to have trust, because trust is faith with data. So you start a new 4-week shredded body. You've just come off EBM, or you've done a 4-week shred in the past. You've done an 8-week shred, or you've done the butt camp or something. And so you start in this new program and you have faith that it will work, but you also have data. You're like, I've done this in the past, and when I followed it to the letter, it worked. Or you might have the other side. I did this in the past and I didn't follow it to the letter and it didn't work. So I have data that not following the program doesn't get the results. So this time I'm going to follow the program and I'm going to try to get the results. Either way, faith is trust without data, and trust is faith with data. So why do we find it so hard to trust? Why can we not just show up, do the plan, and do it without expectation? Why can we not just show up and be willing to accept whatever comes our way? Why do we place all of our happiness and our willingness to continue in having our needs met? Have you ever thought about that? Because that's really what we're saying. It's like, I need to see what I expect to see at the end of a week or at the end of 2 weeks in order for me to have the motivation to continue, which is completely nuts. But that's what I did whenever I started on my program with Curtis. And after 2 weeks, I didn't see what I expected to see. And so I just took matters into my own hands, believing that I knew better. And that was the biggest mistake of my life. Not of my life, probably, but I've made many more mistakes. But it was certainly a huge mistake. But it taught me an enormous amount because I never, ever, ever did it again. I trusted what my mentors told me from then on in, because I realized me doing it my way didn't work. And in fact, me doing it my way my entire 37 years hadn't worked, right? It hadn't worked. But yeah, I'm the kind of person who can always figure stuff out. So I just thought, well, I can figure this out too. But why would I even want to try and figure it out when I had a mentor in front of me with loads of experience who had figured it all out for me? Why did I believe that I knew better? But I don't know. I don't even have an answer for this. Well, I do actually have a bit of an answer for it. I have a hypothesis, I guess, as to why I think it is. And it reminded me of a story which happened very, very recently. One of my second son, Kai, he works for the company now, actually. He's amazing, but he's only 16, and here in the UK, you don't drive until you're 17, and he cannot wait until he gets his license, which is next April. So April 2024 is when he's going to get his learner's license. And so anyway, he's decided the car that he wants, and it's not the car that I would choose to buy him. Now, whenever my other son, Corey, got his license, whenever he turned 17, we bought him a car to learn in, which wasn't it was an inexpensive car. And then as soon as he got his license, we bought him a really beautiful Volkswagen Golf, an automatic Volkswagen Golf. But our goal was for Ryan was going to change his car, probably to a Golf as well. So we were going to share, 3 cars between 4 of us. So we don't really need one car each. It's in our family, because the boys aren't driving every day to work or anything. They're just going to tennis and the gym and whatever. So I wasn't going to buy Kai his own car. We were just going to share my car and the 2 Golfs between Ryan, me, Corey, and Kai. But Kai has decided that he wants this classic car. It's a Toyota Supra. I don't think he's ever going to get insurance on it, but I'm not here to burst his bubble. So he came to me and he said, "How much did you spend on Corey's car?" And I said, "I think it was 25,000. And he said, "Would you be willing to buy me a car for 25,000? And I said, "No, I would not." And he said, "Why not?" And I said, "Well, because I didn't buy that car for Corey. I bought that car for the family. And I intended that you would also buy that car. So it's not like, oh, this is how much I spend on cars for my children. It's that, we're all going to share a car together." So he said, "Well, I really want this Toyota Supra." And I said, "How much is it?" And he said, "It's 20 grand. So I said, "Well, first of all, that's a shit car to drive, because it's like 30 years old. And even though it's in good condition, one, you won't get insurance on it because it's far too fast, and they're not going to insure a young boy driver on that kind of car. Secondly, it's going to cost you a fortune on parts and whatever." So tried to talk him out of it. He wouldn't be talked out of it. He was like, but. I said, "You know what, Kai?" I said, and he said, "Well, what if I buy it myself?" Because he works for the company full time. And I said, "If you want to buy that car for yourself," I said, "here's the beautiful thing about earning your own money. Nobody can tell you what to do with it. So if you want to buy that car with your own money, you rock on. I would never, ever try to stop you. In fact, I would celebrate the fact that you'd earned enough money to buy that car." So then he said, "I don't know that I'm going to be able to make 20 grand before April." I said, "No, probably not." And he said, if I can make 10 grand outside of, my wages, whatever, if I can figure out a way to make 10 grand, will you match it with another 10 grand? And I was like, because now it's different. Now it's a challenge. And I was like, okay, yes. Okay. If you can make, and we set some conditions. I was like, if you can make 10 grand outside of the money that you earn in your job working for the company, if you can have 10 grand sitting in your bank account by your birthday in April, I will match it with another 10 grand and you can buy your car. So he was like, right, okay. So he's suddenly super motivated, right? He has this goal of earning 10 grand. And so he, and I said, "I will even help you earn the 10 grand. I'll even help you with ideas. I'll mentor you." So he said, right. So he goes away and he says, right, I'm going to start, thinking about this. So over the next couple of days, he's talking to all these different people. He's talking to, Betty, his Spanish teacher. So he's chatting to her. Her husband, Ben, has like a gardening business. And so he's like, oh, I could work some extra hours for Ben. And then he's thinking, oh, I could do this. And I could use my language skills because he speaks French, Spanish, Chinese, and English fluently. So he was like, I could use, my language skills to, do something here. So he's starting to generate all these different ideas, right, of how you could earn money. And I said to him, like, I know how you can make a lot of money very quickly if you want me to tell you. And he was like, no, I don't want any help from you. And I was like, well, why not? Like, why would you not want help from me, who is the queen of making money, if you want to make money? He was like, oh, because I want to do it by myself. And I said, okay, no problem. So anyway, he came home from tennis one day. They have private tennis lessons a couple of times a week. So he came home from tennis and he said, I was talking to Glenn, and that's her tennis coach. And Glenn's amazing. I love him. He's taught the boys literally for, I think, 14 years. He's been teaching them tennis for. And he came home and he said, oh, I was talking to Glenn and he said, I've come up with a really, really good idea to make money. And I said, really? What is it? Tell me. And he said, you know what, David Lloyd, he said they're always really struggling for vegan food, vegan sandwiches and vegan wraps and that kind of stuff. He said, and like, obviously I'm really good at cooking and we have this great big kitchen and we have a private chef and everything. So he said, so I'm going to make sandwiches for David Lloyd, and I am going to, and make them whatever. And I'm going to sell them to them every week. And I can make like about, £400 a week. And I was like, £400 a week gross or net? And he said, well, that's how much, they would pay for the sandwiches. And I said, yeah, but what's your cost of ingredients? He was like, well, I mean, I can just like, I'll just like order. I can just use my money that I have now in my bank account to pay for the ingredients. And then just all the money I make from this, I can put it in the other account. And I said, yeah, but Kai, if you're spending more on ingredients than you are on what you're making, then you're draining one account to fill another and you're actually losing money. And he was like, oh, I never thought of that. And so anyway, he hadn't really thought this through. So I said to him, okay, like, I don't want to rain on your parade, but I do have a question for you. I said, and this is something you might not have considered, but I said to him, if you really want to make money, I said, and you want to make as much money as possible, I said, it's confusing to me why you're running around speaking to Betty and Ben and Glenn and his friend Josh and all of these different people about making money when none of these people are wealthy and none of these people know how to make a lot of money. These people know how to make a wage. I was like, Glenn is your tennis coach. Glenn's a very successful tennis coach, but Glenn is an employee of David Lloyd. He's not an entrepreneur. And so I don't understand why you would go to a tennis coach for money making advice. And he said, well, because this was a really good idea. I said, I'm not disputing that it was a good idea. And I said, and I'm not disputing that you could make money at it, but you would be exchanging a huge amount of your effort for very little return. And my other son, Corey, is he's a massive gamer. He's one of the best gamers in the UK. He's number one in Ireland. And I said, and Corey was in the room at the time. And I said, and then Ryan came into the room too. And I said, Kai, here's what it will be like. I said, so let's try it on the other foot. I said, Kai, I've decided that I'm going to learn how to play Super Smash Bros. Right. And that's the game that Corey is number one in Ireland in. I'm going to learn how to play Super Smash Bros. And I have a goal, right? I have a goal that I want to play in a tournament in Dublin in Super Smash Bros. By next April. And my goal is to get to the quarterfinals in that tournament by next April. Kai, can you tell me can you tell me how, can you help me with a plan to achieve that? And Kai was like, well, I couldn't because I don't play Smash Bros. And I was like, shit. I was like, okay. I was like, Ryan. I said, I have a goal, right? And Corey's sitting there at the table smirking. And I said, Ryan, I have a goal, right? I want to reach the quarterfinals of a tournament in Dublin by next April in Super Smash Bros. Right? That is my goal. And can you help me with this goal? And Ryan's like, well, I don't know much about Smash, but like I could maybe, I could come up with some ideas. I said, great. Okay. Well, what character do you think I should play? What character is going to give me the most chance of success? And Ryan goes, well, I've seen Corey play Bowser and he seems to be a pretty good character. And I'm like, oh, right. Okay, great. So you think I should play Bowser? And Ryan's like, well, yeah, like I've seen Corey have success with Bowser. So you could probably have success too. I was like, right, fantastic. And I was like, I wonder who else I can ask. And I was like, I'm just going to go and ask Jack because I think Jack has played Super Smash Bros. Before. So I'm going to go and ask him. And so Corey's like pissing himself laughing at this point. Kai's like, okay. I get it. I'm like, Kai, do you see the irony of this? I said, I want to play I've decided that I want to turn pro at Super Smash Bros. And reach the quarterfinals of a tournament, right? Corey wins these tournaments all the time. I want to reach, but he's been playing Super Smash Bros. Since he was 7. He's now 18, 11 years of homeschooling on Super Smash Bros. He literally sometimes plays 14 hours a day. So traveled all over the world playing in tournaments. And so Kai was like, okay, I get it. I was like, why would I go to you, Dad, Jack, Glenn? Why would I start asking around? Have you played Super Smash Bros? Have you played Super Smash Bros? I have a super bona fide Super Smash Bros expert sitting in front of me at my kitchen table who could give me a plan, an exact plan of who I should play, how long I should play for, where I should play the tournaments, what Discord service or servers I should join to, to team up with other people, who could give me an exact plan, which would bring me within, certainly give me a fighting chance of reaching the quarterfinals of a Super Smash Bros. Tournament next April. Why in God's name would I go around asking everybody else? And Kai was like, okay. So how do I make money then? So the irony was, the reason why I'm telling you this is because he was running around asking all of these different people how he should make money, right? And he was coming up with all these ideas himself of how he should make money. But it was mad because his goal wasn't to fail as much as possible, to learn all these different ways of making money. His goal was to reach 10,000 by April. And we're now in October. So his goal was to reach 10,000 by April. So he doesn't have very long to do it. He only has 6 months, really, 6.5 months to do it. And for a 16-year-old getting 10,000, earning 10,000 profit in 6 months is a pretty big deal. So why in God's name would he go to anyone but me? Because I can give him an exact plan of how to reach 10,000. But not only can I give him an exact plan, I can give him resources to help. I can give him Jamie to advise him. He works with Jamie every day anyway. She's my director of operations. I can give him Brigitte to do the design. I can, give him Vanessa to do his Facebook ads. I can give him a team to help him. All he has to do is come up with the idea and put in the work on the program or the plan, record the videos, whatever, come up with I can even tell him which pain points are big at the minute that he could solve with his skill and expertise that would be worth money. But effectively, I can teach him how to sell online. And he could make so much more than 10,000 if he's just willing to apply himself. And so my point is, the fastest way to get where you want to go is to get the advice of someone who's already done it. They have made the mistake so you don't have to. And if they've given you a plan and that plan isn't getting you the results you expect or think you deserve, the problem isn't the plan. The problem, my darling, is you and your expectations. Because we, the experts, know what is possible and you don't. And if you're not seeing the results that you think you should be getting, it's one of two things. It's either your expectation is out of line with reality, or you're not following the plan precisely. For me, it was the second. Whenever Curtis gave me the plan that he wanted me to follow, it wasn't that my expectations, okay, it was twofold. First of all, my expectations were out of line with reality. The first 2 weeks I followed it exactly. My expectations were out of line with reality. I thought that I should be seeing more results than I was at the end of 2 weeks. But instead of going to Curtis and checking and saying, do you think I'm on track? Do you think I need to change anything? Like I've done it, over the years now with Mark Getty. When he was prepping me, I would have gone and I would have said, Mark, I don't feel like I'm lean enough. Should I add in a second cardio? He's like, no second cardio, no nothing. You're totally fine. Let me get a look at you. You send him your pictures. He's like, no, you're exactly where you need to be. Don't change a thing. And I go, okay, I won't change a thing. And so I don't. But the temptation years ago would have been for me to go, well, I'll just add in an extra 5 minutes of cardio and I won't tell him. Or I'll just take out an extra 100 calories and I won't tell him. And so we lie. We lie and we hide and we pretend and we cheat and we don't follow the plan, but we pretend we're following the plan. But the problem is, and this happens constantly, and I know that it happens constantly because I have done it so many times. And in fact, I know people who are still doing it now. Like there's a friend of mine who was being prepped by Mark recently for a bodybuilding show, and she got a couple of weeks out and she said to me about taking different supplements, whatever. And I said, well, I think you should be taking, it's a hormonal supplement, which stops your body from storing water, from holding water. And I said, well, I've known many women have taken, I can't even remember the name of it, this particular supplement. Maybe you should take that. Has Mark not told you to take that? And she said, no, he hasn't. And I said, well, I would, discuss it with him and see, would that be a good supplement for you to take if you think you're holding a lot of water? And instead of discussing it with Mark, she just got hold of the supplement and started taking it and didn't tell him. And so we lie to our coaches all the time and we pretend that we're following the plan when we're not. And we add in a little bit here and a little bit there and a little bit extra. And then we don't get the results that we thought. And we come into the groups and we go, oh, it's not fair. I'm not getting the results that I thought I was going to get. But it's because we're not really being honest with ourselves or with others about what we're actually doing. Because quite often we change the plan because either we want to comfort ourselves, want to eat a little more, exercise a little less, or we change the plan because we don't believe the results we're getting are the results we should be getting. So we change the plan hoping that our plan will get us the results when it actually isn't going to. But both of these things, or all of these different variables, come back to one thing. We are shit at sticking to the fucking plan. And I'm sorry for swearing, but it needed a fuck in there just to give it a lot of emphasis. We as women, and I'm placing myself in this as well, okay? All of these stories I'm telling you are my experience. We are shit at sticking up and showing up and sticking to the fucking plan and just seeing what happens. But we're shit at it because we don't want to see what happens. We want to control everything. We want to control the universe. We want to control the outcome. We are so crap at just trusting. Just giving up control and just trusting and just seeing what happens. But that's the only way to get where you want to go, is to find an expert who's done what you want to do, follow their plan and just assess along the way. And then whenever you've done it again and again and again and again, you will get to know your body. You will get to know that maybe, oh, if you change this or this doesn't react with you this way, or, if you do this and this, if you can change this and you can have this at this time instead of this time, and actually it doesn't do anything to results. You can start to manipulate and change variables when you have experience. But when you don't have experience, you cannot manipulate or change variables because you need to give yourself a baseline. You need to give yourself something to stick to. You need to give yourself something to measure future results off. And you can only do that when you stick to the plan as laid out and see what happens. And one thing I know for sure is the only way you lose is if you quit. The only way you lose is if you quit. If you keep going, you will never lose because you will always get there in the end. But the reason why people lose is because they quit. And the reason why they quit is because they base their results off their expectation and not off reality. And then they start making all these changes and then the changes don't work. And then they get completely lost because they're now not on the plan and they don't know what worked and what didn't work and how to replicate it and how to keep going with it. They give themselves no baseline to work from, to move forward from, to keep planning from. And so they quit. And whenever they quit, they lose. And then they complain that it can never happen to them. And no matter what they do, it just doesn't work. And people who complain that no matter what they do, it just doesn't work, haven't committed for a long enough time. They have quit and quit and quit and quit and quit. But they have never kept going to the very end. I'm actually reminded of a story that I heard. I think it was Alex Hormozy told the story. And it was about... it's actually a really good metaphor to finish on. And he said, imagine if you had two dice, okay? And you gave one dice to one person and the other dice to another person. Now, I know this is not possible, but he said, imagine one dice has 200 sides and the other dice has 20 sides, okay? And on each dice, one of the sides is green and all the rest are red. And the goal of the game is to throw green. Now, the two different people don't know who got the side with 200, who got the dice with 200 sides and who got the dice with 20 sides, right? You don't know because they're hidden. And so you throw and you throw red. Now, every time you throw, you can throw again. But here are the rules. If you throw green, it turns one of the red sides to green. So every time you throw green, one of the other red sides turns to green. So what do? You throw, it's red. You throw again, it's red. You throw again, it's green. And then another side turns green. You throw again, it's red. Throw again, it's red. Throw again, it's red. Throw again, it's red. Throw again, it's green. Another side turns green. If you keep throwing that dice or throwing that die eventually you will hit a green streak, because every time you throw green, one of the other sides turns green. And so you throw and you throw and you throw and you throw. And eventually more and more and more and more and more sides will turn green, and you will be on a winning streak. And that is what happens when you keep going and you stop quitting. Now, your friend beside you, what'll happen is he'll throw red and he'll be like, oh, fuck's sake, and he'll throw red again and he'll throw it again. And then he'll maybe look at you and he'll see that, you're starting to throw greens, and he'll be like, that's not fair. He got the dice with the 200s. He got the dice with the 20 sides. I got the dice with the 200 sides. And then he'll throw green and, he'll get a little bit of success. And then he'll keep throwing reds. And then he'll look at you and he'll say, he's cheating. The odds are stacked in his favor. And these people are always looking around themselves going, she's lost more fat than me. She's got more muscle than me. Well, she was leaner than me. Well, she had a better, base point. Oh, well, she doesn't work shifts. Oh, well, she doesn't have a family. Oh, well, she doesn't have all of these limitations that I have. The people who are focused on winning keep rolling the dice and rolling and rolling and rolling and rolling and rolling. And eventually they get on a winning streak. The people who are the quitters are constantly looking around themselves and saying, it's not fair. It's not fair. It's not fair. It's not fair. And they give up. They give up because it's too hard. It's too hard to get to green. But it doesn't matter if you have the dice with 200 sides or the die with 20 sides. Both of you can win. Both of you can win as long as you don't quit. The only way to lose is if you quit. If you keep going and you keep throwing and you keep throwing, eventually you will get onto a winning streak. This is what happens in business. It's what happens in bodybuilding. It's what happens in life. In business, the only reason why I'm successful is because I didn't quit. I have failed and failed and failed and failed and failed, but I don't quit. I keep going. Every time I fail, a lot of people, take my online courses, my business courses, and then they do a launch and they expect to make like 100,000. And I tell them, you're not going to make any money in your first launch, or you might make like 10 grand. And they're like, really? Is that all? Honestly, you're not going to. You might make 100 grand in your 6th launch, your 20th launch. But you will make 100 grand or 200 grand or 500 grand or whatever in your launches if you don't quit. But you'll never get there if you quit. And you have to understand that in the beginning, you're not going to throw green every time in the beginning. If you have that die, you're not going to have $100,000 launches every time you launch in the beginning. You might make $1,000. You might lose money. But as long as you continue to throw the die, you will eventually get there. It doesn't matter if it's bodybuilding, doesn't matter if it's business, doesn't matter if it's marriage, if it's whatever. My mum is getting married in 2 weeks, right? And this is her 3rd marriage. And the other day she was like, I can't believe I'm on my 3rd marriage. I was like, you know what, Mum? Good on you. You just kept going until you found the one. She's been with Rob 17 years now. It's the longest she's ever been with a man. She was 13 years with my dad, 13 years with my stepdad. Now she's 17 years with Rob. I was like, you didn't quit. And you'll be with Rob for the rest of your life now. And isn't that wonderful? So you just have to think about it in this way. The only way you lose is if you quit. It may take you longer to get there than the person who has the die with the 20 sides, but that doesn't matter. Just keep rolling the die, because everyone wins as long as they keep rolling. So don't let your 2-week progress pictures put you off. Don't let your 1-week progress pictures put you off. Your expectation is the problem here, not your pictures, right? Not your fat loss, not what you can see on the scale, not what you can see in your measurements. The problem genuinely isn't how much weight you've lost or gained. The problem is your expectation. Realign your expectation and keep rolling the bloody dice. And I promise you, you will succeed. So there you have it. This week's podcast. Managed to keep it under 60 minutes again. I just keep checking the time, like, 57 minutes and 58. Right, need to finish quickly because I know that a lot of you are doing 60 minutes cardio, and you like the podcast to be exactly 60 minutes because then you can obviously finish and walk away, because there's nothing worse than having a bit of a podcast left to listen to and you don't get the final finale of the podcast. That's how I feel anyway. Anyway, guys, hope you are having an awesome week, whatever you're doing. For those of you in the 4-week shredded body challenge, keep going, keep rolling that die. You are doing so well. For those of you who didn't join this challenge and are looking for another challenge, we have an over 50s challenge, the first ever age-specific challenge that we have ever launched. It is opening October 27th, and we are celebrating the opening with a phenomenal 5-day challenge, another free 5-day challenge. It is a 5-day fitness and mindset challenge for the over 50s, but of course, anyone can join, and anyone can join the over 50s program as well. You just can't enter the competition, unfortunately, because we will ask for photographic ID for those who are going to win any of the big massive cash prizes. But of course anyone can join, and that is opening October. The challenge starts October 23rd, the new fitness and mindset challenge, and the over 50s new program opens October 27th and starts November 6th, and it finishes just before the holidays. So I think it finishes December 17th, but the last week you're not going to be dieting. The last week you're actually going to be preparing to move into another program, or move into Christmas, or just whatever it is you want to move into. Okay, guys, thank you so much for showing up. Hope you enjoyed this as much as I did. See you next week for another episode of the Kim Constable Podcast. And yeah, enjoy yourselves. Keep going, keep trucking. I believe in you. Hopefully you believe in yourself. And have an awesome rest of the week, wherever you are, whatever you're doing. Okay, love you loads. Talk to you soon.